This video explains what social norms are and how people react when social norms are broken. We have conducted a social psychology experiment that highlights the importance of social norms and how and why people react when these social norms are broken. We chose to conduct an experiment which entails one of us group members walking up to a random person that is smoking and asking them for a drag of their cigarette. Nothing much wrong with that, right? But then we walk away with the cigarette in hopes to get some form of a reaction from the person. We predicted that different people were going to react differently depending on their personality and the context in which they are in. We chose to do this experiment as there is a rather large smoking culture and community at Rhodes, and as with any activity, there are a number of social do's and don'ts that you are expected to adhere to. Any smoker would know that asking for a drag is one thing, but walking away with someone's smoke is a completely different thing. You just don't do it, and not because someone tells you not to do it, but because it's a socially constructed norm that all smokers should just be aware of. The majority of our filming is done outside the CAFE and Drama department on Rhodes campus, as these are two very popular places for people to have a quick smoke. We set up hidden cameras while one of us approached a smoker and asked for a puff. We then asked the smoker for their permission to use the footage that we had recorded to compile this video.
Our hypothesis states that people will have a reaction that is caused by discomfort when socially accepted norms, such as returning a cigarette, is not adhered to.
We have three theories that frame this experiment, those being social norms theory, social constructivist theory, and cognitive dissonance theory.
Social norms have and remain to be universal phenomena. There is no human society in the world that is exempt from the functioning and existence of norms. Crudely defined, norms are the implicit social rules regarding appropriate behavior in certain situations. The fundamental question thereafter becomes that of contrasting societies and changeable norms. Berkowitz rightly commits to the idea that within social norms theory, concerns have been expressed about its efficacy in general and with specific populations in particular. Put loosely, norms are culture and locale specific, whilst they are subjected to change. People of a particular community may have contrasting norms with the next community. Hence, we speak of prescriptive and prescriptive norms. The former refers to group norms that recommends behavior, while the latter speaks to group norms that forbid certain behaviors. Part of our experiment, we'll ask to take a drag of a cigarette politely, which we'll then leave with, removing the owner of his or her possessive, the cigarette. This breaks the norm in a sense that we have been programmed to internalize the rule that the borrower should always return what is not rightfully his or hers. We are brought up this way. It's a social rule. Part of this experiment, the activity of not returning the cigarette, breaks this thinking, this social rule, and can amount to stealing. Therefore, our experiment errs towards the prescript. Social constructivist theory simply refers to the idea that meaning and norms in a society are constructed by that particular society rather than present because they are natural. This theory also speaks to the fact that norms are created based on the context in which they exist. This is an important theory to take note of in our social experiment as we are analyzing the idea of adherence to social norms. Due to this, we must be aware of the fact that the norms we follow on a daily basis are socially constructed. For example, the fact that when we return someone's cigarette after taking a drag, that is because this is behavior we have learnt is social. The behavior we have learnt is socially acceptable. But there is no law saying that we must do this, which means that this is a socially constructed norm. In this experiment, we will look at how unknowing individuals respond in situations where one of these norms that isn't reinforced by law is not followed. This is interesting as it would be a different reaction to what we would see if someone was pickpocketed or mugged, because in such a case, they have a legal foot to stand on. Whereas in the in this situation, the only thing they can do is use the fact that in most situations one would return their cigarette.
Cognitive dissonance. This is understood to be the inconsistency of attitudes or the inner conflict between two factors. This may be based on beliefs, opinions, or in this case, based on social norms. In these videos, we can see that people react differently to these social norms. This is due to the inconsistent attitudes and cognitive dissonance. This may lead to discomfort.
There is a huge range and variety in the way that people experience cognitive dissonance. Although it is not something you can see, we presume that everyone who we recorded had some form of cognitive dissonance when they had to decide how they were going to react to their cigarette being.
Hey dudes, yo, please grab a drag. I'll see you later, yeah?
This girl experiences discomfort and was clearly not happy when Hunter walked away with her cigarette. You can see that the girl is hesitant on reacting, and as a result, she chose not to say anything at all.
Social facilitation refers to the tendency for people to perform differently when in the presence of others than when alone. In the previous videos, both subjects looked around for a form of confirmation to their preemptive reactions. In the first video, the subject was alone, but given the effects of social facilitation and the environment she was in, she decided that it would not be appropriate to react in an overt manner. This is contrasted by the second subject's reaction, who was around her in-group, and similarly shared her primary reaction, which prompted her to react in an overt manner.
Analyzing the results of our social experiment, it has become clear that we were correct in our hypothesis, which asserts that people react when social norms are broken. This reaction is often heightened when they are in group settings as a result of social facilitation theory.
Hey! What's back?
As you can see in some of these videos, people react differently. Some people reacted more subtly, while others were more vocally expressive.
Hello baby, how are you? No, I guess. I mean, it's my loss. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so desperate. That's okay, dude. I don't mind. Yeah, I gotta shoot. I'll see you later. Bye. Honey, bring my smoke bag. Honey, bring my smoke bag now. I'm serious.
Oh yeah. And then it ended like.
Why did it end? Oh, that's right.
she, are you? I don't even but I was just wondering if they had to make a sentence.
No.
Bye.
Smoke. You mean?
Yeah, I gotta shoot. I'm late for a meeting.
That's not.
Yeah, it really just.
Oh really? Oh, because I haven't asked for one, but like I feel like nowadays it's not really.
No, it's super chill. Thank you. Okay.
It is clear from the previous videos that people tend to be more verbal and overt in their reactions when the smoke is taken by a friend or acquaintance, as they feel more comfortable in expressing their thoughts about this broken social norm, as opposed to a stranger's. This substantiates the hypothesis, as a reaction is still provided, but they vary between established relationships and ones that are non-existent.
Audio Jungle.